Dispatch is a game with many themes. Forgiveness, reconciliation, redemption, individuality, autonomy, among others. Depending on the path you take, the choices you make, some of these themes will be more pronounced than others. But underlying it all is a single question. Who are you? Or, more specifically, who is Robert?
Yeah, we know this Robert guy is a front. Who are you, really?
Robert is Mecha Man. He always has been. Even his name, Robert Robertson III, is a grim reminder of his fate. The death of his individuality in favor of becoming the next vessel in a series of grim repetition. Different minds coming to possess the same body, the same identity, the same purpose. From the moment he was born, that suit was his destiny. Being Mecha Man wasn't just a job, it was more than even a way of life. It was his identity. Outside of the suit, he had no life, no job, no friends, as even he admits.
I don't get out often.
When we take a look inside his room, the space he's designed just for himself, the place that belongs to him, what we see is that there's nothing there. Nothing except Mecha Man. Without it, he has nothing. Without it, he is nothing. Just an empty room. And as we all know,
bare walls are a sign of depression.
It's why Shroud never bothered to finish him off. The moment that suit was destroyed, Mecha Man died.
Just on the inside.
The fact that Mecha Man is a suit is not insignificant. It draws a line between the outer shell, the suit, and the man inside it. Robert sees himself not as a man piloting a suit, but a suit piloted by a man. A ghost in the shell, a sharp, Gnostic duality akin to body and soul. But, in Robert's eyes, it's not the flesh that is weak, but himself. He is the weak one. He is the powerless one. He is the one who should have died that day, not Mecha Man. Robert is nothing but a ghost, a soul removed from his body, with nothing left to do but aimlessly wander across his old haunts, searching in vain for a way to keep his purpose alive even after its death. In this search, he has a choice. He can hold on to the identity of Mecha Man. He can be that ghost, wandering, waiting for the day that he can be whole again. Or, he can be Robert. Robert Robertson III, whoever that is, whatever that means, he has no idea. But, either way, the choice ultimately lies in the player's hands, and whichever way he falls in the end, he's got plenty of people to help him along the way. He's got a guardian angel watching over him, someone who has come to save his soul, to rescue him from his aimlessness and lead him to new life, to a resurrection of both his body and his purpose. But not for free.
You have a lot left to give.
And what if I say no?
Then I'll hate you forever. And I'll push you off this billboard.
SDN is, in many ways, a home for the homeless, which strives to give aim to the aimless. It is in some ways a Sheol, a Hades, a purgatory. For some, it's their final resting place, the last stop on the line. For others, it's their hope, a second chance at life when there seemed to be none. In this place, Robert is not introduced to answers, but to more questions, meeting people who are dealing with the same dilemmas. Am I Trackstar? Or am I Chase? Am I Blonde Blazer? Or am I Mandy? Am I Invisigal, Invisibitch, or can I just be Courtney? Am I a villain? Am I a hero? Am I something else entirely? What Robert finds is perhaps the only group of people who could ever understand him, a group of people just as confused as he is. His old friend Chase has also lost his powers, in a sense. Like Robert, he gave everything to his life as a superhero, and it did nothing but take from him in return. It literally robbed him of years of his life, and what does he have to show for it? Nothing but gray hair. Chase has come here in search of a new purpose, just as Robert has. Has he found it? Is he satisfied? It's not clear, but the answer leans towards no. Blonde Blazer is a woman who seems to have it all together. Beautiful, confident, with the best of both worlds, a fulfilling fame as a hero, and a highfalutin job as a manager at a major corporation. One of her most striking characteristics for the player is her immediate admiration for Robert, an admiration that shines through the whole of Chapter 1. Mecha Man is a well-respected hero, that's true, and has likely earned all the more respect in her eyes for refusing the many benefits that would come from his position, whether they be brand deals or easy desk jobs like her own, and doing all of this without any powers to his name. He took the hard road, the high road, while she seemed to have it so very easy. All of this would be enough to earn her attention, but there's a much deeper reason too. Robert is maybe the only one who could ever understand her, who could ever witness her inner vulnerability with admiration rather than disgust. The name of that vulnerability is Mandy. See, Blonde Blazer is no different than Mecha Man. She is a suit, a costume, a name, a power easily transferred from one powerless person to another. The difference between them is while everyone knows that about Mecha Man, no one knows it about Blazer. It isn't merely that she's living a lie, she is a living lie. A lie that has hitherto fooled everyone, except herself. This is ultimately why she and Phenomenon broke up. Phenomenon loved Blonde Blazer. He loved her strength, her power as a hero, but he didn't love her weakness. He couldn't see the ghost in the shell. He couldn't look past her appearance to see the woman she was inside. No one ever did. But maybe Robert could. So, she asks him. She lets Robert decide who she is. Is she Blonde Blazer? Or is she Mandy? Is he Robert? Or is he Mecha Man? The answer to one may mirror the other, but perhaps by learning to love the girl behind the mask, a woman weak and powerless in comparison to her alter ego, he could learn to spare a little of that love for himself, and see in there the same man that Blazer so admires.
Phenomenon, they have hero power there for all to see.
F***ing villain powers.
Something fascinating about Robert is that for all his complaints about being powerless, he doesn't seem to have any idea of what powers he would want, or how his life would have been different if he did. This changes with the Z Team. See, Z Team has what some people would call villain powers. All of their lives have been affected by the powers, and many of them would say for the worst. Many of them were labeled as villains, or foisted that label upon themselves. But Robert has a different view of powers. He sees powers as he sees his own gadgets. Powers are a tool, and they can be used or misused at the discretion of the one using them. It's not about what you have, it's about how you use what you have, which leads him to a single question. What does he have? If someone with villain powers can be a hero, then can someone with no powers be a hero? If someone can be a hero in spite of their inherent disadvantages, then maybe he can too. Maybe all the pep talks he gives about not being defined by your powers, by what you have or what you don't, are as applicable to him as anyone else. What he sees is that he's not alone. Every hero, whether they have powers or not, experiences the same feelings of exclusion, isolation, and imposter syndrome. Everyone has to determine whether they will allow their identities to be defined by their powers, or their past, or the labels that the world has seen fit to thrust upon them. And the villains are no different.
Your dad. Chase. Your little team of turncoats. You think you can beat the bad by being good. But there's no solving human nature. You can't stop evil. All you can do is control it.
Shroud doesn't have much dialogue in the game, but what he is, what he has chosen to be, tells us a lot about his character. It doesn't take much digging to realize that Shroud faced the same choice as Z Team. He could choose to be a hero or a villain, and he chose to be a villain. Convinced that two categories were wholly binary, and that whether one fell on one side or the other was completely beyond his control. which is why he could have never predicted that Invisigal could choose otherwise. He could have never predicted that someone could choose to reject what appeared to be her destiny. He could never predict that someone would make a different choice than he did. Shroud faced the same choice as Robert, as everyone else in this story. Am I Elliot, or am I Shroud? His choice is equally plain. He chose to be Shroud. He speaks of his old name as if it were a separate person entirely. He rejects it. He does not respond to it. In rejecting his name, he rejects his humanity with it. He rejects his ghost, and he chooses to become the machine. As said earlier, Mecha Man being a suit draws a clear dichotomy between Robert and his alias. Robert is not Mecha Man. Mecha Man is a superhero that has lived for 3 generations. It pre-existed him, and would continue to live after him, were it ever repaired. When Mecha Man died, Robert kept on living, and if Robert died, Mecha Man would keep on living. Shroud rejected that distinction. He took the technology that made him Shroud and he fused it with his body. He rejected the powerlessness that Robert and Mandy feel. He rejected the weakness of his mind and of his flesh. There was no longer a man in a suit, a man masquerading as a villain or a hero. He had become the villain. He erased all distinction between his technology and himself. He made them one in the same. He made himself into the villain he imagined himself to be, the villain that others thought he already was. He became Shroud, totally and utterly, and his quest now is to complete that transformation. With the power of the astral pulse, he could sacrifice what was left of his humanity at the altar of Shroud. He could give himself over to his predictive algorithm, and there would be nothing left of Elliot, the man he used to be. Perhaps he still felt some of that disconnect, that dysphoria, the sense that he wasn't all he wanted to be, all that everyone else thought he was. Maybe this was his attempt to resolve that divide in his heart, in his mind, in his identity. Regardless of his reasons, he made his choice. Now, it's Robert's turn.
Yeah, we know this Robert guy is a front. Who are you, really?
I'm Mecha Man.
Whether Robert chooses to embrace his humanity, his powerlessness, or to hold fast to his identity as Mecha Man, is a choice that's left in the hands of the player as much as Robert himself. That's because, by the end of the game, the question is no longer an important one. Robert finds his identity in the back of a taxi when he looks up at the cross and sees himself reflected within it. See, the fall of Trackstar had a moving effect on him. As he and his old friend reminisced about their days as heroes, what it meant, why they did it, whether it was worth it, Chase made his decision. In spite of his powerlessness, in spite of the sacrifice, Chase gave what little he had left in the service of others, for the sake of what was good and what was right. Robert witnessed this truth in his dear friend. He saw it again in the cross, and he saw it again in himself, that there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for his friends. From this moment on, the question is no longer, am I Robert or am I Mecha Man? Robert finds his identity outside of himself. The question of identity becomes a question of prudence, not who am I, but how can I do the most good right here and now? Can I do more good as a dispatcher, or as a hero, as a mentor, or as a guardian? Chase chose to be Trackstar, Blazer chose to be Mandy, Courtney chose to be Invisigal, and the Z Team chose to be heroes. The choice one makes in these moments don't matter half as much as the choice which motivates it. The choice to do good. The choice to do as much good as possible in the moment you find yourself in. At the end of Dispatch, we realize that our identities don't exist for our own satisfaction. They exist for the people around us. Who we are is defined as much by our inner life as by our outer life. as much by our thoughts as the thoughts others have about us. What we learn is that we are what we do. Our identity is defined by our actions, which means that they are defined by our choices, which means that we can choose to be whatever we want to be. And with this power, with this choice, comes a grave responsibility. A responsibility to use that power to choose to be a hero. A responsibility to lay down our identity for the sake of our friends, and to become whatever we need to be for the sake of those we love. Whether intentional or not, it is a firm rebuke to a culture obsessed with identity, obsessed with finding a true self that exists outside of our bodies, outside of the world we live in. No, it is in your body and in the world that your identity is formed. There is no ghost. There is no shell. There is only you, and the choices you choose to make with what power you have, however much or however little that may be.